Was goody? Was good, my people? Here with another episode of the Pagan Chronicles, and today I wanna get into Christmas. It's the end of the year. The holidays are coming up. You know, and I just wanna bring a truthful perspective of what these holidays signify or represent or symbolize, if you will. First and foremost, I hope you guys have been alright, man. I hope you guys have been alright. I hope you guys have been keeping up with the struggle. I hope you guys have been fighting. I hope you guys have been trying to overcome with a genuine and truthful heart. And all praise to the Most High, man. We're grateful to be here. Another video. All right, let's get into it. So we grew up celebrating this holiday called Christmas, right? In which we posted up this tree, and under this tree there were presents. There were presents, gifts. We'd have a feast with the extended family. Good times, good times. And I don't want to say that it's wrong to do that, and I don't want to say that you shouldn't link up with the extended family and have a feast together. There's nothing wrong with that. You should do that. Keep in touch with your loved ones. I just wanna bring a truthful perspective of the pagan ideology of that which is Christmas. So before I go into things, I believe all of you brothers already know about Jesus not even having been born on Christmas Day. The facts about that part of the world being too cold for the son to be born in a barn, where farmers were looking after their cattle and their herds. It was too cold for people to be outside at that time of the night. Therefore, he couldn't have been born around, the 24th or the 25th of December. Everybody knows that part, right? And another thing, I said this in an earlier video about the Pagan Chronicles Buddha, and I said that when I looked up his origins and his history and where that story came from, it said that Buddha was said to have been born on the 25th of December, right? And it wasn't just Buddha. It was also Adonis. It was also Osiris. It was also Hercules. It was also Tammuz. And all of these gods right here were excuse me, I'm sorry. And all of these supposed gods were born on the same date, the 25th of December. So that right there should already warn you about something. That right there should already tell you that there's something fishy in the water. Something's not right, right? And by the way, for those of you who don't know, Buddha, Osiris, Tammuz, Adonis, these are all the same people, just different names and different languages. These are all variations of the devil. These are all variations of Satan. Even as you see on the screen, Saturnalia, like the planet Saturn, or like, who is that? The Roman god Saturn, god of the underworld. That's just another way to say Satan. Saturnalia, Satanalia. All right. So yeah, that's another point, just to show that there's something fishy going on about Christmas. One more thing. Well, not just one more thing. I got like a whole list of things that are pretty much holes within the picture here. Something else that I want to bring up is the idea of the Christmas tree, right? The Christmas tree being a symbolism or pretty much the shofar that is Christmas, the image of Christmas, the joy of Christmas, if you will, especially as a kid, where you get to exchange gifts. That is posted up, put up with lights and with the the 5-pointed star at the top, which should say something as well. This Christmas tree, it represents the Tower of Babylon. And as you guys who read the scriptures should know, the Tower of Babylon, where Nimrod wanted to build a tower in rebellion against the Most High. That's what this tree represents. But it does not just represent that. It also represents the idea or the concept of this log. This log is a symbolism. It's an image or a place stand for Tammuz, you know. And what the story is that when this log was first used as an image for Tammuz, it was just a stump, right? It was just a stump that was buried into the ground. Not into the ground, but more so just planted into the ground. The top of the upper half of the stump showed. And this stump was branchless, it was naked, you know, and that represented the death of Tammuz. In his death being caused by wild boars, right? So what people did was they added branches to this stump and they made it a lively tree. And that was to represent his rebirth, you know, him being reborn, which is why they said that Tammuz and all these other gods were born on the 25th of December. This was just the date of his rebirth, you know. But I will get into that later. This is that right there is referred to the holiday of Ulage, and I will get to that later. For now, I just want to bring to you the concept of Saturnalia. All right, so Christmas is a modernized version of this ancient Roman holiday called Saturnalia, and this was a festival where the wealthy exchanged gifts and also pretty much just partied like there was no tomorrow. They got drunk, they cross-dressed, they had orgies, and they practiced a lot of homosexuality. They had a lot of homosexual parties going on, if you know what I mean. And not only in that, they also practiced rituals, because of course these guys were pagans. So it says here on the Wikipedia page that Saturnalia is an ancient Roman festival and holiday in honor of the god Saturn, held on the 17th of December of the Julian calendar and later expanded with festivities until the 19th of December. By the 1st century BC, the celebration had been extended until the 23rd of December for a total of 7 days of festivities. The holiday was celebrated with a sacrifice at the Temple of Saturn in the Roman Forum and a public banquet, followed by private gift-giving, continual partying, and a carnival atmosphere that overturned Roman social norms. Gambling was permitted, and masters provided table service for their slaves, as it was seen as a time of liberty for both slaves and freedmen alike. A common custom was the election of a king of Saturnalia, who gave orders to people, which were followed and presided over the merrymaking. The gifts exchanged were usually gag gifts, or small figurines made of wax or pottery known as sigillaria. There was a poet called Catullus who called it the best of days. So Saturnalia was the Roman equivalent to the earlier Greek holiday of Chronia, which was celebrated during the Attic month of Hecatombion. And please forgive me for my pronunciation there. And this Hecatombion was celebrated in late midsummer. So it held theological importance for some Romans who saw it as a restoration of the ancient golden age when the world was ruled by Saturn. The Neoplatonist philosopher Porphyry interpreted the freedom associated with Saturnalia as symbolizing the freeing of souls and immortality. Saturnalia may have influenced some of the customs associated with later celebrations in Western Europe occurring in midwinter, particularly traditions associated with Christmas, the Feast of the Holy Innocents, and Epiphany. In particular, the historical Western European Christmas custom of electing a Lord of Misrule may have its roots in Saturnalia celebrations. Alright, so we've established Christmas being a modernized version of Saturnalia. And to add on to that, it's not just Saturnalia that is, that's a holiday that occurs around this time. There are several holidays. As this article just said, there was another holiday practiced in Greece called Cronus, which is probably in honor of Kronos, the god of time, who's also another version of the devil. And there's actually more holidays celebrated aligned with this time around the 25th of December. Another one that I want to get into is called Yule or Yuletide or Yuletage. Not too sure of the pronunciation, but somewhere along those lines. And it's another pagan holiday which has its roots in paganism, and actually has its roots in some of the things that I've mentioned before, concerning the mother and the divine child, concerning Osiris, concerning Horus, concerning Tammuz and Adonis. Yule, being a holiday that is celebrated as the same time as Christmas, is a holiday celebrated by Wiccans, warlocks, Druids, people that practice witchcrafts and that honor devils and demons. It is celebrated at this time of the Winter Solstice, which is like the longest night of the year, if I'm correct, which happens around the 25th of December, and that's why all of these holidays are celebrated around this time, because it is the Winter Solstice, the longest night of the year, and that has like representation or some sort of spiritual power to witches, or so they believe. And it's the same with Saturnalia. They also practice it because it aligns with the Winter Solstice. All right, so Yule can be celebrated by burning a Yule log, or otherwise the stump of Osiris. I talked about this early in the video. I'll get into it again. Yule is also celebrated by exchanging gifts, sharing similarities with Saturnalia. All right, so it is a winter festival historically observed by the Germanic peoples that was incorporated into Christmas during the Christianization of the Germanic peoples. In present times, adherents of some new religious movements, such as modern Germanic paganism, celebrate Yule independently of the Christian festival. Scholars have connected the original celebrations of Yule to the wild hunt, the god Odin, who's also just another version of the devil, along with Zeus and Jupiter, and heathen Anglo-Saxon Modronate, or Mother's Night. The term Yule and cognates are still used in English and Scandinavian languages, as well as in Finnish and Estonian, to describe Christmas and other festivals occurring during the winter holiday season. Furthermore, some present-day Christmas customs and traditions, such as the Yule log, Yule goat, Yule boar, Yule singing, and others, may have connections to older pagan Yule traditions. Now, something that I want to touch on right here is the Yule boar. And that is something that is celebrated even in modern Christmas times. The idea of the boar, the concept of the boar. Remember watching those Christmas movies where the family or the characters would have like a feast, right? The feast. And in the middle, there would always be a roasted boar with an apple in its mouth, And not just in movies, also in animated series, in like cartoons that we watched earlier. And you remember that, right? So apparently that boar has significance. That boar is the same, or that boar symbolizes the boar that killed Osiris, that killed Adonis, that killed Tammuz, and chopped him up into pieces, So they have a tradition where they eat that boar, or they use that boar to commemorate or venerate the same boar that killed or rather to venerate and commemorate Osiris or Adonis or whatever have you. And this tradition, being the boar's head tradition, mostly just consists of serving a roasted boar with an apple in its mouth upon a gold dish. This happens during Yuletide, during Saturnalia, and also in modern Christmas celebrations. And just to give a quick reminder of this boar, so when Osiris was killed by the boar, Isis was in devastation, but more so she was worried about her queendom, rather. She was worried about her power and authority. So she told the people that Osiris, or the king, had risen to the heavens, and in turn would be reincarnated, or would be brought back through her child, because after he had died, she was impregnated, by whoredom. I guess she found some random nigga to, to impregnate her. So when she was pregnant, she told the people that this was Osiris, or the king, reincarnated, because he's a god. And that's where the mother, son / husband concept came from. All right, let's look at this from a more paganistic perspective. So it says here that as contemporary pagan religions differ in both origin and practice, these representations of Yule can vary considerably despite the shared name. Some heathens, for example, celebrate in a way as close as possible to how they believe ancient Germanic pagans observed the tradition, while others observe the holiday with rituals assembled from different sources. Heathen celebrations of Yule can also include sharing a meal and gift giving. Sounds very familiar to Christmas and Saturnalia. In most forms of Wicca, this holiday is celebrated at the winter solstice. Like I said before, the winter solstice, the longest night of the year. And on the opposite, you have the summer solstice, which is the longest day of the year. And a lot of witchcraft going on around that time because apparently there's like spiritual power there. Anyway, this holiday is celebrated at the winter solstice as the rebirth of the great horned hunter god. We know that. That is Cernunnos, or the devil, who is viewed as the newborn solstice sun. The method of gathering for this Sabbath varies by practitioner. Some have private ceremonies at home, while others do so with their covens. Generally meeting in covens, which anoint their own priests and priestesses. Wiccans chant and cast or draw circles to invoke their deities, mainly during festivals like Samhain and Yule, which coincide with Halloween and Christmas, and when the moon is full. Christmas is a pagan holiday. All right, so just to piggyback on personal anecdotes or personal practices of Wiccans, I found an article about which this woman who celebrates Yule gets further into the details of what Yule is. And there's a lot of things that coincide with things that we already know of, considering Christmas. All right, so I'm gonna start in the middle because there's a lot more towards the introduction, but I feel like it's not that relevant. Modern Yule draws from a vast number of traditions and celebrations. There are older holidays to observe the solstice in Germany, Scandinavia, and the British Isles. Modern scholars often look to the ancient celebration of Saturnalia as a source of influence. Saturnalia, which lasted from December 17 to December 25, was a feast for the god Saturn. This days-long festival was a carnival of delights, and the holiday became synonymous with alcohol and celebratory behavior. If you've ever read The Hunchback of Notre Dame or seen the Disney movie, The Feast of Fools is a descendant of this holiday. In other parts of history, Yule was a time for turning inward. Much of the work of the year was complete. The harvest finished, provisions stockpiled to last through the winter, and the wind howled outside, bringing driving snow with it. Ghosts and other creatures wandered the long nights. Many people believed, and it was best to stay inside, telling stories by the fire and waiting for the sun to rise. Yule is a liminal period, a time for reflection and to await the sun's return. Today, Yule is still a liminal period, a time for reflection and to await for the sun's return. Large gatherings take place at critical solar sites around the world. For example, hundreds of pagan practitioners gather yearly at Stonehenge, which I guess is a solar site. I don't know. I guess it's meant to harvest solar energy somehow. I don't know. I digress. Right, they gather yearly at Stonehenge to watch the sun set behind the stones. At Newgrange in Ireland, a lucky few win an annual lottery to be inside the mound chamber to see the sun's lights suffuse the room through a narrow passage. Unfortunately, she lives nowhere near Stonehenge and Newgrange. Instead, she sometimes will make a Yule log, and this is the log that I was talking about. Decorating the chosen piece with branches before burning it in our fire pit, and that's the Christmas tree. That's what the Christmas tree represents, the Yule log. While this tradition can be traced to many different folkloric practices to modern pagans, it represents the death and the rebirth of the Green Man. And I said this before earlier in the video. The Green Man is Osiris. After the selected log is burnt, a small portion is saved to light the following year's fire. The remaining ashes are then scattered over fields or gardens when it is time to plant seeds in the spring. But my favorite thing to do is watch the stars on midwinter night. During this time of year, the stars are brighter. Almost half of the most luminous stars appear in the sky in wintertime. That's not considering the sky is already more transparent due to the decrease of the moisture in the atmosphere. Huh. I always wondered why the sunsets were better in winter. I love looking up on clear moonless nights to see Orion, Taurus, Pleiades. Old stories are embedded in those stars, and Yule is the perfect time to tell them again. All right, more pagan stargazing. All right, and for the most part, the story pretty much ends there. I just wanted to highlight her burning the log, the Yule log, which is a representation of the Green Man, as she said, who is just Osiris. Just another name for Osiris, who is also depicted as green. I mentioned this in earlier videos. And yeah, man, that's those are the main points which highlight and which illustrate Christmas being a pagan holiday. Like I said, I'm not saying you shouldn't gather with your family and celebrate being together and feast and be merry. Um, it's just more so having a Christmas tree or making the 25th of December this special day when in fact it is devil worship. And that's one of the greatest crimes that you can commit against the Most High. So, with that being said, I'd like to thank you guys for hearing me out. Another video, man. We got more on the way, more in 2025, and just more videos to hopefully gather you guys onto the Most High. You guys, please keep praying, man. No matter how hard the days get, no matter how long the nights get, no matter how cold the nights get, no matter how long these rainstorms go on for, and no matter how lonely it feels, no matter how it feels like you're just drowning in this harsh life, keep climbing this mountain. Keep going, keep praying, keep fasting, keep opening your heart and opening your mind to lessons that Most High is trying to teach you. Be observant of what's going on around you. Practice faith, practice patience, practice temperance, practice virtue, practice principle, practice morals, practice knowledge, practice humility, practice brotherly love, practice charity, practice righteousness. Put your best foot forward and try to prove yourself to the Most High every day. I'm not saying go out there and be perfect. Unfortunately, none of us can be perfect. That is a very hard thing to do. Even the scriptures say we sin every day. We sin every day, even without us knowing. That doesn't mean that we should not try. You know, every day you wake up, be grateful for the day that the Most High has given you, and use it to the best of your ability to try and be a better person. You know, look for the Most High with honesty, with truth, and with a genuine heart, with obedience and with sincerity. And I promise you, He will have His hand stretched out toward you, and He will try and meet you halfway. Be grateful for mercy, and always be grateful for another day. And thank you guys for hearing me out another video. I'm gone.